Canadian guitar player and record producer. I play in the band Blue Rodeo these days, and we are in Toronto at Orange Studios. I started with a clarinet in grade 9 and then eventually learned some saxophone, but by grade 10 I was starting to get a little more confidence, and I realized that I also had this incredible love and fascination for guitar, so I thought that I'd meet a lot more girls playing guitars. I started actually by going down to my local music store and asked them if they would take me on as a part-time job, which they did, and that's how I was introduced to guitar, kind of thrown right into the fire. I grew up in Hamilton, Ontario, which was is a pretty gritty steel town. They call it the steel town, industrial. A lot of working class people, a lot of ethnicity, a lot of diversity there. So when I first started learning guitar, I was working in this music store, and I guess some of my earlier influences were some of the guys who just walked in the door, guys who were actually maybe a little older than me, and they were sort of, to me, I felt like they had sort of mastered this thing. Hamilton was always a hub for a lot of six-nighter bands, like back in that time, especially from the 60s to the 80s, in Canada it was very normal for bands. Like, you go to a place, you'd play 6 nights, you'd do like 4 sets, and most of it was cover material. So you got rock and roll bands, you got country bands, a mixture of those two. So I would meet all these guys coming into the shop to buy strings or buy this or check out guitars and stuff. And so I got a sense of a lot of different styles of players in the city. I would say that it was definitely it's a working class town, so it was more kind of, working class appreciated music. Well, there was a lot of really interesting things coming out of Hamilton, and I would say it probably started in the early 80s. Daniel Lanois and his brother Bob Lanois, they had a studio in Hamilton called Grant Avenue Studios. It's still running, actually. So he had his little crew of guys, like he still does. He's always got his kind of crew of brilliant players and engineers and so on. And one of the guys that was his kind of go-to guy was this guy Bill Dillon, who was was sort of a native Hamilton guitar player. I met Bill, and he became kind of my mentor because he was about 10 years older. By that point, he had established himself definitely with Dan and had some stuff going on, and he was just starting to do a lot of records with some well-known people, and he was also at the ground floor of a lot of people's work, including Robbie Robertson and Sarah McLachlan, and then he ended up going and working with Peter Gabriel and Paul Simon and Chrissie Hynde, Joni Mitchell, on and on and on. So Bill and I became very, very close friends at the time. I was just a sponge. I'm a tone junkie. Like, I definitely have, over the years, tried to find a tone that speaks in the way that I hear it for playing guitar as a signature. When I was in Crash Vegas, I was the only guitar player. And a lot of the guys I really loved in other bands were the only guitar players. So I would listen to them and I'd think, how do you create a broader spectrum with the guitar being the only instrument in the band, let's say, or the only main voice other than the vocals? It's the harmonic voice, so to speak. The guys I really loved were able to expand on the landscape with that idea. So they would take chords and they would fragment them, so to speak. Like Johnny Marr was great with that. They would expand on the whole narrative of it. So between the combination of having great tone, they would take simple ideas and they would create harmonic support for the voice. For me, that became part of my purpose in trying to be the only guitar player in, say, a band where nobody else really played a harmonic instrument, that I had to expand the chords more like that. So I would say that was really the part of the start of what that sound for me became. We go back actually to the late 80s, because when Crash Vegas started, Crash Vegas was started by Greg Keeler and Michelle McAdory, who's the singer, and then I joined the band a few months later. So in the first year and a half of the band, Greg and I were the guitar players in the band. Just around the same time, Blue Rodeo had put out their first record, Outskirts, and that sort of took off. And so it sort of literally became a point where by early to mid '89, we sort of felt like they're getting busier, we can't schedule gigs together. So we just ended up saying to Greg, we're gonna go off and be this little 4-piece band, and you're gonna go off and do Blue Rodeo. But then, we shared the same rehearsal space, we were signed to the same label, we had the same manager. So it's a very long relationship for me. Jim on his first solo record in '97. So I've done all of his solo work since then. And we've just been very close friends because we have so much history together. I played on one of the records 20 years ago. It's just the fabric that's woven into my music history as much as it's woven into theirs. So it's a good fit. It's a good fit. I remember reading this ad about this new unit that was coming out that Roland had designed, and it was the first design for guitar multi-effects processor called the GP8. It seems like it has everything in there that's going to be able to give me a color, and that I can run between my AC30 now that I got, and I actually had this guitar then, and then some other guitars, and so I interfaced them and I tried it out, and it was just like it was an instant revelation for me. It's never been repaired. I thought there was a memory battery in it to service the memory in it. I can't find it, and if there is one, it still works. So that piece of gear is part of the lifeblood of my sound. And I've told so many guys over the years who've asked me about how do I get my tone and all of that, and I say, well, actually don't tell everybody, because I feel like it's part of my secret. I don't want everybody to know how great those things are. But I guess I can now. Doesn't really matter. And now I am telling them. I think it's an incredibly well-designed and incredibly musical piece of equipment. I love the delay in it. I love how it sounds. It's early digital delay, but it's still grainy, and it isn't quite, and then everything else in it was analog. So it was like you're getting a CS2 or 3, and you're getting all those pedals now that everybody covets. And I sort of feel like you got it all in one. Couldn't be better. I'm absolutely a devotee of the Roland GP8, but I've certainly had a lot of the pedals over the years. I still think that they are amongst the greatest guitar music pedals, not just guitar, just music pedals. They allow for musical possibilities. So thank you for continuing to do great work. The advice I always give, amongst any other specific questions, is that I say don't quit. If your heart's really in it, don't quit. Because quitting won't get you there. Everybody's journey is going to have rocky roads. There's no straight line to where you think you're going to go.